Um, so my name is Dr. Pamela Gay, and I am here to code and do science. Hello, Paranor. And last time I was here, I was finishing up a words, they're hard. I was finishing up code to simulate a variable star, and I finished it up. Before that, I did a simulation of craters impacting a surface. John Colonel, that is a very sad comment. So I finished the last 2 bits of code I'd thought through wanting to do. And so I'm trying. Thank you so much, Fenmil, for the subscription. That's awesome. So I'm trying to figure out what to do next. And this is, can you say Cavion? You're making fun of my French. So, which is well deserved. So you guys can, first of all, completely distract me with the chat we have just proven. But in addition to your fabulous distractionness, you can also, should you choose to, help me figure out what I'm gonna attempt to code tonight. So I'm considering just doing something silly for a change. Working to try and maybe explain kinematics or just bounce things off of one another. Did Nightbot fall over, Fenmil? That is sad. Let me kick Nightbot. Hey, Susie. So I can do something that prints Hello World over and over and over. I can even do it like super creatively. I need to open the chat in something that doesn't scroll so fast, but I have the ability to do that. I know that Nightbot fell over. I'm working on it. It's all right. It's all right, Joel. We'll walk you through it. I'm looking through the commands. So one of the default commands should be ! commands. And I'm confused as to why it didn't work. Options. It's something everyone can do. Can someone type ! WSH and see what happens? The chat went away. That was not an anticipated side effect. And that appears to be doing nothing. Okay, so I need to, apparently as my first act of the evening, beat on Nightbot. I'm sorry, folks. I have no idea why Nightbot decided it needed to be evil. Bad Nightbot mad. So while I calmly and gently beat Nightbot in the way that one beats disobedient robots, which is basically turning them on and turning them off and turning them on again, I can tell you about something that we're working on scheming for the weekend. As you may know, and as you may not know, the InSight spacecraft is scheduled to launch at stupid early in the morning. Why did not... So when Insight launches this weekend, and we may just have to live without Nightbot tonight, because I have no clue why Nightbot is noping me so hard. Because Nightbot says that it's working. Head to your Twitch channel and type mod Nightbot. We have a Nightbot. Okay, we have a Nightbot again. Turned the guy off, turned him on, it worked. That sounded not the way I meant it. Okay, so this weekend, the InSight spacecraft is going to be launching. And it's on its way to Mars. In general, spacecrafts are dead to me until they have successfully launched, for the very simple reason that they sometimes blow up. And I'm really not a fan of when spacecraft that I like and I've invested brain cells in learning about opt to blow up while I have fallen in love with them. So in general, spacecraft don't exist to me until they've already launched and like proven their worth and they get there and things work. So InSight is currently slated to launch at 4 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Central, 6 a.m. No, I'm going the wrong direction. Eek. 4 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Central, 2 a.m. Mountain, 1 a.m. Pacific, in the middle of the night between Friday and Saturday. It's not the best time for those of us who live in America. It is a fabulous time for any of you who live in Europe. And you're confusing me with the caps allowed. I'm going to move on. I don't know what caps allowed is. Okay, Susie's posting links to the InSight launch. So the thing about the InSight launch is this is another basically robot destined to end up on the surface. It's similar to the Phoenix lander that landed in the polar regions back in 2011-ish. I'm blanking on exactly. It was probably earlier than that. It was probably like 2010-ish that we had Phoenix. Whenever we had Phoenix, it's the spacecraft that determined there is ice on Mars. And we were very excited, very, very excited. Well, landing on the surface of Mars is kind of difficult for the very simple reason that it doesn't have enough atmosphere. Thank you for the follow, Flying High. So Mars doesn't quite have enough gravity to use, not enough gravity, enough atmosphere to use a parachute, and it has too much gravity to easily use retro rockets. So you can't work like you were landing on the moon. You can't do it like you're landing on the Earth. And so we have to come up with all sorts of crazy hybrid ways to land. And yes, Flying Eye, I have 2 channels. This is because this is my day job. So right now you get to hear me talking about my day job and the things that we do for my day job. So I'm in the real world, an astronomer who writes software that gets used to help find awesome science and survey data. And the way we do this is we post stuff at CosmoQuest.org. The link is, coordination is hard. The link is down there. And if you go to CosmoQuest.org, you can set up an account, you can do science, and then we take what you've done. And because worlds are big, turning off my tea kettle. Because worlds are big, we don't want to ask you to like map all of Mars or all of the moon, because you would never finish. Just like our professional scientists who are paid to do this. And it is one of the most thankless tasks you can pay a scientist to do. They will never truly finish. So what we do instead is we invite you to mark objects. And we ask you to mark a lot of them. And by a lot of them, I mean that we often get like, whoa, I just accidentally turned all my lights off. That was an interesting mistake. And then I failed to turn any of my lights back on. I'm having one of those days. So we ask you to map things out. We ask you to help us figure out what's on other worlds. And then our hope, our plan is to use deep learning algorithms to train software using what you did to convince the software to do amazing things. And we're getting close to being able to do this for the moon, because our moon project's the one that's been out the longest. We are getting close to being able to do this for Vesta, because Vesta's been out about the second longest. And people like Vesta. We have 2 worlds that are having difficulties. Apparently, no one gives Mercury any love. And I get it. Mercury's kind of baked. It's kind of broken. And it's just not as pretty as the other planets. But you can't bias your science based on looks. So we need help getting Mercury done. And we also need help getting Mars done, because we had a project up on Mars for a while that people just found kind of dissatisfying, because the goal was to find all the images that have nothing in them. And looking for nothing is actually kind of boring. So we've swapped out what data we have for Mars. We've swapped out what science we're working on Mars. And what I'm thinking we're going to do is I'm going to get up earlier than I would like in the middle of the night between Friday and Saturday. And I'm going to come on this Twitch channel right here, CosmoQuest X. Give it a follow if you haven't yet. And I'm going to try and get on half an hour before launch. We're still working on all the details. This literally came out of the air today as something we should do. And in the lead up to launch, I'm going to, because the NASA feed is public domain, I'm going to bring it into this channel, do some picture-in-picture, set things up so that I can go back and forth between sharing the screen with the Insight launch and having just me and having just Insight, which sounds cooler than it actually is. I wish I could have just Insight, not the spacecraft, the thing. So you'll get running commentary about the Mars launch. I'm going to study up on the spacecraft ahead of it in hopes that it doesn't blow up. And in the less than interesting parts where we're waiting for the spacecraft to do something, where we're waiting for rockets to launch, where we're waiting for orbital maneuvers, all of those different things, I'm going to be going through, and I invite you to join me, and marking things on Mars using Mars mappers at CosmoQuest.org. And I can't tell you why Venus is not, well, yes, I actually can. I will answer your question in a moment, Fenmil, and if I forget to, please ask it again. Something else that's going to happen is I am a subscriber to Loot Crate. But as much as I wish I was a hardcore gamer girl, the reality is I'm an astrophysicist, which does not leave a lot of time for video games that have plots. And so I have a whole bunch of Loot Crate stuff from universes where I'm like, this is interesting, but I have no clue what this is. And so I am going to pass on my collection of random small rubber and plastic items from Loot Crate to those of you who show up and help me do science. I know, Noel, that Kerbal doesn't have any plot, but it takes more than 15 minutes to play. So I think the way, and all these details are still being worked out, I think the way that prizes are going to work is you have to type a code into our achievements, and you have to complete at least 15 images in the hour of the giveaway. And every hour, I will look for someone who typed in the code that they're watching and who in that hour completed 15 images. And you can do 15 images in 15 minutes. So you can basically do your rockets and then just settle back and eat breakfast and drink coffee and then do some more images. So yes, we are going to combine giveaways, we are going to combine science, and we are going to hopefully combine it with a space launch. Now the thing is, if we find out Friday night that it's no-go for launch before I go to bed, I will be announcing on the Twitters, and Susie will be helping me announce on the Twitters, that we were postponing doing this until launch occurs. And I'm sleeping in because I like to do that. So, yes, we're going to collect images of all the different small plastic and rubber items that we are giving away, Funko Pops, all that sort of stuff. And we will probably go 6 or 7 hours. So we'll do this for a while. And I may get talked into doing it again once I figure out when Mars is in the sky. So, yeah, we're going to figure this out as we go. Does this make sense to people? Do any of you all have any questions about what we're thinking about doing for Saturday? I'm going to make tea while you consider any questions you may have. And apparently I'm going to knock my teacup on my mic. So sorry. Yay, happiness. Stop spamming emotes. Thank you, Fenmil. That's kind of amazing. Thank you, Fenmil. You are awesome. Okay. So this is what is being contemplated. I may also have things like my husband makes magic wands, and I may have a couple of these to throw in on the giveaways. It's just like, I don't know if I should conduct music. I don't think I'm doing this in the correct order. But there's something about holding a stick in your hand that encourages, I'm going to stop now, putting back down the magic wand. Oh, Nightbot, it's misbehaving again? Why are you misbehaving, Nightbot? Top command is WSH, so it is working. It's just not working great. So yes, no smacking down of disruptive students. Disruptive students get ejected until they regret their choices, and then they're allowed back. Kind of like we silence people for a few minutes with the mods. So now my plan for the evening was to work on some happy little software programming. Does anyone have any ideas on the kind of things that they want to see? Otherwise, what I'm going to try and do is figure out how to do a quick and dirty simulation of a moon going around a planet, or a moon going around whatever you want it to be going around, And over time, we can add layers of complexity to this, such as adding shadows, such as adding inclination. So, no, I don't think you can time out Nightbot. So, let me know what I can do. And Susie, you can actually beat Nightbot 2 if you go to beta.nightbot.tv, logged in as CosmoQuest. Use beatings as necessary and add commands as necessary. Barycentric orbital disruptions by hot Jupiters. Let's start on the orbit and we'll work our way towards that. Does that work for everyone? We will start with having a hot Jupiter orbiting a sun, and then we'll start adding all of the cool effects of basically the planet getting brutalized by gravity. How does this? I will work on adding in how the star wiggles and everything else, one step at a time. So hot, spicy Jupiter, like the painting. Yes, we shall do a hot and spicy Jupiter. Okay, so I managed to get the lid off my coffee. I didn't actually make hot tea because I'm going to reuse this mug. I know that Michael wants polar vortices. I kind of have issues with painting polar vortices. I'm working on it. I'm going to have a new plan for Saturday afternoon. Someone explain in the chat what that means, because this is my work Twitch stream. And I know I have hot tea. There it is. Okay. So I'm getting all sorts of weird information today from Twitch. Thank you, whatever that was. Let me move quickly. Thank you for the following, Lord Barrack. Thank you so much for the following. Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm going to be working in processing, which is a handy-dandy version of Java. It's kind of a layer that sits on top of Java. And it allows me to easily create animations because it has built-in libraries that take care of pretty much all the heavy lifting. So I am going to, oh, hey, Matthew. It's awesome to meet you as a username. And of course, processing is going to make me update, but I'm going to ignore that for now. I shall update it later because I am just that kind of a human. Okay, so I shall start with a blank slate, and I shall switch to sharing my blank slate. Thank you so much for the follow, John Colonel. Okay, so blank slate right here. Now with processing, some of the things that I need to do is try and make it so that you can see more of my screen. So this area of black down in the bottom is my console. It's where I can print out error messages and things like that hopefully I won't need. I'm going to make it so you're only seeing a line of it, which is pretty much all you need to see if I do something terrible. Now, the general format for writing any processing code is the first thing that you have to do. And I forgot to put water in my tea. I just put the tea bag in. Oh, you guys get me at the end of a long day, which means my brain has started to become absent-minded professor. Okay, so we're going to write software that slowly but surely builds up towards having a planet going around a star. Then we're going to start to add tidal effects and the Doppler shifting of, or not the gravitational shifting of the star. And we're going to build up over time to make this into a full-on animation of a planet getting torn apart by tidal forces, which just seems like a fun thing to do. Who doesn't destroy planets on Tuesday nights? Okay, so the first thing I have to do is set up my canvas. This is an animation, and animations like to have a surface on which to appear. And the way processing works is you set up a bit of code that runs once at the beginning, and then you set up what it draws every frame. I'm better than I like to be a Volgon constructor fleet. Noel, I'm going to do the 3D scaling with depth and stuff like that, but I'm just going to draw in 2D because lazy. I admit to this. I may upgrade to 3D as we go, but let me get the stuff going in 2D first because I like myself. Okay, so starting in 2D where things are a little bit happier. So the first thing I'm going to do is misspell the word size. And I use the word size to set up the area I'm going to draw in. And I'm going to do this kind of small so that everything fits nicely. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set a frame rate that's kind of slow because my computer's kind of slow. And this will just make it easy for me to see things. Frame rate, it's giving me an error. Frame rate int does not exist because it needs to be a capital R. And I'm going to start out with my sun X position as one of the things you get for free for processing is the variables width and height. These are saved to the system, and if you use them, you can resize your canvas, and all the calculations you do get redone around the width and height variables. So what I can do, I'm going to look at the chat for a minute. Well, it's not 2D because ignorance is bliss. It's because 2D because Pamela is sometimes lazy. And Susie is out there adding stuff like an awesome human. This is a IDE that is built on Java, but builds in a whole lot of stuff for you. It's not quite a framework. It's its own bastardized thing of glory and awesome. Go to processing.org to learn more about it. I really love this. Art is passion. Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm going to put my sun in the beginning at width. Wow, can't speak and type at once. Width divided by 2. And I'm going to put my sun's Y position at width divided by 2. I'm going to notice I totally forgot a parenthesis. I got a new keyboard this weekend, and I wonder if that's why I'm just like constantly off by one character. And Noel, for those of you who are wondering, is a professional animator. So like he's done stuff you may have seen on television. But he does art as opposed to me, who's doing visualization for fun because I can, and it keeps my brain happy. Okay, so Sun X. Okay, so one of the things you have to do is this is a closely typed language, so I have to remember that I want to give, this is actually an int, I have to declare my variables. Int. Now, because I want my sun's position to be something that carries from in my setup function into my drawing function, I'm going to declare them outside of that as global variables. So now I should be able to get yelled at by my code. Function sunx. Oh, yes, I wrote that as a function. I may be more tired at the end of the day than I thought. Okay, this will work much better. I pressed play, there it is. So I have now created a gray box of not exciting. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start my animation. So when I do my animation, first I set up the function, and this is one that it pretty much gives you for free. It's just going to automatically execute this for me. And the first thing I'm going to do, so every single frame, it's going to do the steps that are in this function. So the first thing I'm going to have it do is erase the background and replace everything with what color you think I should make a background in space. And this is where I hate the lag, because I ask silly questions and it takes you a moment to all chime in. Color. Give me a color. What color do you want outer space to be? There's a lot of lag tonight. Teal, a very low value of cosmic latte. I think you mean a very transparent value of cosmic latte. Function, what's your conjunction? Sure. How did we get Nightbot chiming in with an up arrow? That is brilliant and also silly. Okay, I'm going to see if there is a HTML color for chartreuse. I have to look at how you wrote it. Paranor, you're fabulous. I can't spell chartreuse. Well, yes, there is indeed a hex color code. I'm going to try this, and then I'm probably going to switch it to Cosmic Latte, but now I am amused. So I'm going to set the background to, I need to do this in RGB. So this is 127, 255, 0. And let's see how much I regret all my life choices. I do not like. So Paranor, strangely, Google disagrees with you, but I have to use RGB. Okay, Noel, if you can give me RGB, which is a transparency, I am happy to do that. I just gave you what you asked for, FedMail. Sometimes there's life choices that we regret. Okay, so I'm going to do a background of black. That's much saner. And now I'm going to drop a pale version of Cosmic Latte, or I should say a transparent Cosmic Latte on top of this. Now the color Cosmic Latte is actually it's the color of if you add up all the photons that are hitting the Earth and could like bundle them together to be bright enough to see, you would get a color called Cosmic Latte. So I just looked it up on Google, and there you can see the sample of the color. And I'm going to grab the RGB values and move this back over here. So in a moment, I'm going to turn this into transparent, but just to give you a starting point, I'm going to show you what Cosmic Latte looks like in large. Now I should be able to add a number at the end of this that will make that semi-transparent. That was not how you do it in processing. Okay, let me look up opacity. And the first thing that comes up is, why does opacity in the background not work? Use fill rectangle instead. Okay, that makes me sad. Okay, so the way I'm going to add a bit of Cosmic Latte that is semi-transparent on top of this is, instead of using the background on top, I'm going to change my fill color to Cosmic Latte. And let's try that. And I'm going to, instead of using the background, I'm going to draw a rectangle the size of my screen. So it's going to be X position. So I'm going to use the same X position as the sun. It's going to be Y position. And it's going to be height, which is height, and it's going to be width. And I'm hoping I did that right, because if I didn't, I should have put it at 0, 0. I don't remember if processing draws rectangles off the center point like it does with circles, or if it draws them off one of the corners. But we shall find out in just a moment. That appears to have done nothing. Okay, let me make a sad face. Okay, that's semi-transparent. Oh, so the first thing sets the upper left-hand corner. So let's put the upper left-hand corner at 0 for X, height for Y, and see what happens. Okay. Now, I'm looking up how you do the transparencies, because clearly I didn't write it correctly. Oh, transparency goes from 0 to 255. So giving it a transparency of 0.5, thinking transparency goes from 0 to 1 was my problem. So let me do 125 to see what happens. And this should be much better. I am confused. It started to draw something. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so there's my gray. Pardon me while I spend far too long trying to figure out why my rectangle isn't working. So I have a fill. I'm going to just randomly draw a rectangle by copying and pasting the code I'm looking at. Okay, so there's my little tiny rectangle up there at 0, 0. So let's do this as the image width and the image. Oh, I had it off the bottom of the screen last time. Okay. There. So now we have a light version. I agree, art is passion. Transparency should be between 0 and 1. They have it between 0 and 255. Oh, sorry that my rectangle escaped. Let me figure out there. Does that work? So it's kind of hanging off the top just a little, but I'm going to be drawing in the center. So while I'm not drawing, I'm going to cover it over. I'm going to make this a whole lot more transparent. So 25% opacity should be 63. I know it's a 256-bit value, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. Usually transparency is between 0 and 1 or 0 and 100. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a sun. Looking to see what Fenmel wrote. You are getting eaten by Automod tonight. So Fenmel, I don't think math tard is the issue. I think the issue is we stopped believing that kids can actually learn really complicated things. I feel safe that paranoid, those are strong words. I may agree with you. So Alexander the Great conquered a large chunk of the Europe and Europe and Middle East before he was stopped being a teenager. And part of it was, it used to be that you were old if you lived well into your 20s. So you had to learn things earlier. You had to be ready to be married by 13, by 15. And in those times, at 5, you might have a job. You might be an apprentice somewhere. And somewhere along the lines, we convolved the idea that children should actually be allowed to play, which is good for their creativity, and kids can't learn complicated things. And these are two totally separate ideas. When I was in Russia a number of years ago, when it was still called the Soviet Union, I was taken to visit their equivalent of like a magnet school. It was a special school for kids who will be STEM professionals. And they had kids that were learning calculus at 12. And they were just like the local kids that were the ones who here would have been all in honors classes. But there it was like, and we shall put you in a school to become STEM professionals. Kind of like the New York Math and Science Academy. And it was kind of amazing to watch because the kids were never told that they were learning things that are hard, that are difficult. They were just learning. And there's so much information that children choose to put into their heads because they're bored. Like 5-year-olds know the names of all the dinosaurs and will correct me if I'm wrong about whether a brontosaur still is or still isn't or is yet again an actual dinosaur. We just forget that kids have this capacity. And unfortunately, we end up losing time. So all the things that we just didn't say, it's perfectly normal to learn this, we don't have the time to make up to learn it. So I wish I could get back my former knowledge of dinosaurs, but apparently being a teenager erased it. There's a lot of things out there that we forget, and a lot of things we never learn because parents think they're too hard and teachers think they're too hard for kids to consistently learn. Kids can actually do truly amazing things. I am now, I'm actually going to look up the color that I used when I was drawing Cepheids, because it's a pretty darn good color for what we're going to do. So I opened over in a different window that you can't see the colors that I used to make a sun. So I'm going to say these colors. I'm going to say ellipse located at sun X, sun Y, and width divided by 4, and height divided by 4, and I'm gonna draw this. There. We have a very boring and scientifically, and my turtle jumped, and scientifically inaccurate sun. Paranor, I can't speak French. You are just mocking my inability to speak French. I say this with love. Okay, so the reason I'm saying that this is a scientifically inaccurate image is because when we look at our sun, we see shading of color that comes about from looking at different amounts of the sun's atmosphere. So I just brought up the Wikipedia page on limb darkening. There we go. And this is an image from the transit of Venus in 2012. This is Venus hanging out up here. And what you see is when we look through a large amount of the sun's cooler, darker atmosphere, we see this darkening. When we look straight in through the smallest amount of the sun's atmosphere, we see brightness. When we look at all of the places where the sun's magnetic field has gotten lost and has come through the surface of the sun, we see sunspots. So these actually are generally in pairs, where one is a magnetic north, the other is a magnetic south, and they have arcs of plasma connecting them, which is kind of cool. You guys are just being silly in the chat, and it's delightful. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to add that limb darkening. And the way I have done this before is I did an iteration on the green. Now, what I'm looking at currently is older code. And because I love myself, I write documentation as I go. If you don't comment your code, that is your way of saying that you hate yourself. So if you don't hate yourself, comment your code. So what I'm going to look for is a comment that hopefully says limb, and it does. So add alpha layer for limb darkening. So that's what I have here. I'm going to just draw a stroke. I'm going to draw no fill. And I'm going to increment I so that the last 30% of the star is limb, and alpha goes from 255 to 0 in n pixels, where n equals 30% of the radius. Okay, that was a lot of words. And then I'm also changing the opacity as I go. So I'm going to just grab this entire block of code, and I'm going to have to change the names of some of these variables, but that's easier than retyping everything. So let's add some comments to this, because hopefully we all like ourselves tonight. So this is draw a dark cosmic latte background, because chartreuse was, oh wow, that was bright. Draw the sun. Add limb darkening. Now, in doing this, I have the stroke weight set, I have the fill set. I want to do, instead of radius of star, I'm going to change this to radius sun, and I'm going to add a new generalized variable up here. My new generalized variable, I'm actually going to change my mind on what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it sun rad, because that just sounds cooler. So down here, I'm going to change this to sun rad, and I need to, before I draw the sun, I'm going to set sun rad equals, I'm going to have this always be a function of, actually I'm going to do it always as a function of height, because our star is going to be a circle. And so there's that. So I have sun radius set. Here I am, I initialized an integer value called n. I initialized an integer called opacity init. So here I just need to change this to be my sun. Okay, getting a new keyboard and then trying to touch type is not doing it for me tonight, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay. Sun rad. Okay, so I think that was all of my values. I'm going to press play and it's going to yell at me. I cannot be resolved into a variable. So I need to just create a variable I'm going to use over and over again called I. There. So now we have a sun with limb darkening, and let me see if I can layer everything on top of everything. So I didn't succeed at doing that on your screen. So you can see actual limb darkening appears to be more of a shade of orange. I did it with black. Let me see if I can do it with an orangier color, because that will be more satisfying. So RGB means that if this is the color that I'm drawing my sun at, I want to do my stroke color as, let's make this 255 to just make it redder. Expecting, and remember to put the semicolon there. That didn't quite have the effect I was hoping for. I'll fuss with that later. Let's work on trying to get It looks like C with some framework. It's actually just Java. And why do we have drop? Oh, we have the person drop bear, not an actual drop. Okay, ignore me. I need to not like focus in on random words on the chat. What was your question, Noel? I missed your question. Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, I'm caught up now. Yes, this is essentially Java without classes. It's Java Lite with a bunch of data visualization libraries embedded. Like I said, go to processing.org. Everything is there. You can download the ID entirely for free. Okay, so I now want to draw a planet. I'm just going to make a block for all of this limb darkening. Okay, so all of my limb darkening is now one large block. And just to make my code more readable, I'm going to draw a line out. So later when I'm trying to find where I did all the different things, it's easier to jump between. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to draw a planet. Now, if our sun is 1, my next question is, what fraction of the sun's radius is Jupiter? So, trying to look up a table, because NASA produces tables, and I'm lazy. Oh, I found like a classroom exercise that's telling you to calculate everything. Okay, so draw a planet. I'm going to have to math. Jupiter equals 69,911 kilometers. Sun equals so the sun's radius in kilometers is basically 10 times that. So the sun's radius in kilometers is 695,508. Now, with hot Jupiters, I actually have a baby hot Jupiter on my desk. So hot Jupiters can look kind of like that. They come in all sorts of really funky colors. And the reason that they're these new colors that we've never seen before is because when you heat the gases in a Jupiter-like object to much hotter temperatures than what Jupiter currently experiences, different atoms behave in different ways. So you can actually start getting these greens and purples that we're just not used to thinking about. Now, because of the way gas dynamics works, it turns out that if you took Jupiter and you added a bunch of mass to it, it wouldn't get that much bigger. It would get denser, but it wouldn't get bigger. And this is one of the really frustrating things in some cases for trying to understand the masses of gas giants around other stars, because in order to figure out their mass, we have to be able to see how they move their central star. Whereas if we can just see them eclipsing that central star, which we can do with a lot cheaper of a telescopic system, that will tell us the diameter of the star by how long it takes for it to pass in front of the star. So we can basically use the ratio of the sun to Jupiter. And even if we're looking at a much larger mass gas giant planet, we will still have roughly the same ratio in diameters. So I'm going to go with our planet, which I may make as chartreuse on top of black, is going to be 10% the size of the star. So I'm going to say int. Actually, I'm going to declare this as a starting point up here. Int planet rad. I'm also going to eventually need, so I might as well set them up while I'm here. Int planet x. Now, normally the style that you use in processing is first word lowercase, second word capitalized. But in my head, sun and planet are proper nouns. Planet is not actually a proper noun. I'm simply naming our planet for lack of ingenuity in my variables. So don't mistake the proper noun for proper generic capitalization of things in processing. Okay, so there's my two variables. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to draw a planet, and then I'm probably going to call it quits for tonight because I tried to come on for 1 hour, and I'm going to keep working on this until I have made you your planetary disruption of your dreams, or at least of cool, awesome things. Okay, so drawing a planet, I'm going to set planet rad equals error on planet rad, int planet rad. I don't know why you're being sad at me. Okay. Planet rad equals 0.10 times sun rad. You're just going to be like a cranky computer tonight. Type mismatch does not match with int. Dang it, I'm going to have to convert this to a float to make it go. As I said, this is a closely typed language. I converted it to a float. Why are you still... Oh, because now I have to convert the entire thing to an int. Yes, I know I'm missing a parenthesis. Okay. Hopefully you will be happier. I didn't tell it to draw the planet. It won't draw the planet till I tell it to draw the planet. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 drawings. The first one, I'm just going to fill it with the color black. So I'm going to draw an ellipse that is planet X, which has not yet been set, planet Y, which has not been yet set, planet rad, Okay, so where do I want to put my planet? I'm eventually going to have these moving around, but as a starting point, I'm going to put planet X equals 0.25 times width, and I'm going to put planet Y equals height divided by 2. So that should, if I did this right, draw my planet right here. So let's see if I succeeded. Cannot convert from float to int. You're just going to keep yelling at me for that, aren't you? Int. Let's see if I can get away with just doing this. Int. Yes. So this is my cute little Jupiter that is 10% the size of my star. Now it's going to get moved in much closer, and it's also going to get shaded chartreuse. I'm going to do that part first. I have to look up the chartreuse color code again because I banished it from my screen because it was somewhat horrifying. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to take a moment and look up in processing how to do the stroke color. Okay, so I should... Thank you so much, Skylius, for hosting people over to here. Oh man, I may need to keep programming a little bit longer. So chartreuse can indeed be horrifying. So Bob has been taken for a spacecraft. I don't think Bob has been taken for a planet yet. So we now have our little tiny black planet on our cosmic latte background of space with our sun of limb darkening. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add shading to my planet, and I'm going to try and do the shading with a stroke of, whoa, that was not what I meant to do, with a stroke of the color chartreuse. Okay, so there's my color chartreuse, and I want to put this on the planet. So for those of you who just joined us and didn't click away as quickly as you could, thank you. Thank you very much. So what I'm working on doing right now is I'm starting the code for animating a hot Jupiter getting torn apart by its sun. Now, I just started this like half an hour ago, so it isn't currently very exciting. It looks like you're mixing active and static modes. I have no clue what you were talking about, dear code. I'm going to delete that line, see if that helps. What are you upset about, software? This is a new error I've never gotten. Okay, let's delete the limb darkening. And then, oh, I bet I'm one too few. Yeah, I have a parenthesis in the wrong place. Let's fix that. Duplicate local variable. Okay, I'm reusing it. I don't need to redeclare it. Typely cast languages are the bane of my existence. I did not shade it chartreuse nearly dark enough. Okay, so let's do opacity. Let's start with it as bright green. So 255, and then fade inwards. Let's just tint the sucker chartreuse. That will be easier. Okay. I'm going to now do fill on top of this in chartreuse. I'm going to do it about 25% on top of it. I'm going to redraw our planet. And there we go. So this is, as I said, a bastard version of Java. It's processing.org. It builds on the Java language, but then gives you a great IDE, builds in a lot of commands and libraries for doing different geometric shapes. And currently I'm trying to get exactly the right shade of green for a hot Jupiter. I am happy with that shade of green. Okay. I will eventually make that look more three-dimensional. It's a hot Jupiter to be named later. I approve of hot Jupiters to be named later. That is, in fact, most of what Kepler has discovered. Okay. So, I'm glad you guys approve of my hot green, of my green, hot and spacey, hot Jupiter. And what I will be working on. So my homework for next Tuesday is, thank you so much, Skylius. I'm working on getting better. And I'm actually wearing Jupiter's moons tonight. This shirt is available on Redbubble and was actually designed by Noel, who's in the chat. I love this particular shirt, and it's finally warm enough to just wear this shirt. So you too can wear planets. What I'm going to work on with this particular thing next is, between now and next Tuesday, I'm going to look up the ratios in distance in terms of the radius of the star between your typical going to die violently hot Jupiter and its sun. I'm also going to look up the actual height of the plasma waves that the gravitational pull of the hot Jupiter can pull up off the surface of the star. And I'm going to do the maths to figure out, as the planet comes forward, how much bigger is it going to appear? As it moves backwards, how much smaller is it going to appear? And I may zoom in on this more next week. So for those of you who weren't here earlier, I'm Dr. Pamela Gay. I apparently can't talk with my hands without bumping my microphone. And this is the channel I use for my day job. There are several of us that stream on this particular channel, and all of us stream things related to understanding our universe and getting you involved in new and interesting forms of science. Tuesday night, I come on and work on programming projects like this, where I'm doing a whole bunch of different simulators. So I've done a simulation of a variable star, which I'll go ahead and pull up to show you. I have done, so this is a pulsating variable star like a Cepheid. So I've done this. I've done cratering models for different age surfaces on the moon. Now I'm working on a disrupted planet going around its star just a little too closely. Wednesdays and Fridays, Matthew Richardson comes on and he works on showing people how to do the maths for weird and awesome and interesting problems. So one of the things he's doing right now is one of you, I don't remember which, asked him about, can you just use Newtonian physics in this one really high mass situation? And so what he's going through, and he's working the problem in the relativistic way, showing how you do all of the relativity equations. And then he's going to do the exact same thing in the limiting case, where it drops down to being just Newtonian physics, and see if the Newtonian answer is good enough to be useful. This Saturday, I'm going to be here at some insane hour if the InSight mission does actually take off as it's supposed to take off in the wee hours between Friday and Saturday. It is scheduled to take off currently at 4 a.m. Eastern, which just kind of like hurts because that's 3 a.m. Central, 2 a.m. Mountain where Skylius is, 1 a.m. out in California where they're launching. Doritos are great fire starters, by the way. If you're ever camping and you need a fire starter, Doritos, it'll do it. Anyways, so Saturday, I'm going to come on. I'm going to be streaming the launch, and we're going to be working on incentivizing you to help us study Mars. So once an hour, I'm going to be giving away something awesome, potentially things like this magic wand that my husband makes as a hobby, definitely some Funko Pops and other things from loot crates, all new, brand new, possibly has been waved on camera by me. I have no coordination. And so we're going to be giving away things every single hour to someone who's typed in a code. Oh, yeah, I can switch over to full screen. That is true. Thank you. Freeze before tossing the Doritos. But yes, Paranor, you are in Nova Scotia, which is a truly beautiful place with amazing tides and a better time zone. This is actually perfectly timed for... You keep Funko Pops in the freezer? Is there more than one kind of Funko Pop? Okay, sorry, that just broke my brain. So we're going to be giving away things once an hour to people who type in a code that I'll be giving during the stream on this Twitch channel, the one that is CosmoQuest X and associated with CosmoQuest.org. So we're going to be giving away stuff. And our goal is to get enough of Mars mapped out that we can start training neural nets. Do I need to go get a Funko Pop? I do. I will be right back with a Funko Pop. So one of the things I'm going to be giving away is a Han Solo in snow gear Funko Pop. So this is just a brand that makes all sorts of different figurines. And my camera is like, that is too shiny. So these are the kinds of things we're going to be giving away on Saturday. So tune in at stupid hours. Thank you so much for the bits, Hex40. Yay, bits. There will be a nap in between, Skylius. I will be fine. A nap and much coffee. So we're going to go for probably 5 or 6 hours. We're going to wait until the mission is definitely on its way to Mars. So life shall be good. So I'm actually due to start streaming on a different channel in 9 minutes. Do you have any last minute questions? Wow, you guys took my brain straight to coffee and it didn't come back. So I'm actually going to Um, try and figure out how to raid the other channel. Oh man, do I know how to do that? With Yes, I'm going to just do it. I'm just trying to figure out how I love Funko Pops. So I'm trying to figure out how to raid a channel that isn't currently live and then very quickly switch over to that channel. So you guys are about to go over to a channel that I don't know what's currently showing. Stay there, please. I will launch the other channel as quickly as I can make the commandy commands go. Okay. Star Strider. Okay, and I'm going to very quickly flip things over.